Welcome to Portland Film Beat. I'm Dave Pullen, and my guest tonight is Steve Coker, writer, director, producer. He's worn many hats in his lifetime. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
You grew up your early years in San Diego.
Yeah.
How did you get to Portland?
Well, my parents moved around a lot. They were hippies.
Okay.
So actually, my mom and my father split. He wanted to live on a commune, and she wanted me to be raised, a little more conservatively. Ended up that he ended up being a dean of a college of art college, and she ended up being the hippie in the long run. So ended up right here in Portland, and lived in every small town in the area that you can think of: La Center, Woodland, Battleground. I've lived in all of them.
So this is actually your home, not San Diego.
Portland has really become my home.
What's your training in film?
I don't have a ton of training. I actually started out, I think like a lot of people do, with a high-8 camera in the backyard with their friends goofing off. And
So that's actually how you first got interested then, too? That was my other question.
Pretty much, because and at that time it was a lot of things like SNL kind of sketch comedy things that we would come up with that you would never want to see. Just terrible, horrible things, and in-camera editing, and just big giant titles and just horrible sound.
But you were having fun with your friends,
having
right?
a great time, and that was all well and good. I'd always been involved in theater since I was working as a busboy in a pizza place that had like a sketch comedy show, and for one of their shows they asked me to do a quick walk-on because they needed a 13-year-old kid, and so I did, and it was received so well they asked me to join the troupe. And so after that I started working with them and got involved in theater that way. And then in high school I started doing a lot of theater there, and then into college.
Okay.
So I thought that was my path for a really long time.
All right, cool. What is your current project?
Currently, well, I'm working in kind of two different realms right now. My current film project is a movie that was written by one of my screenwriting students. She wrote the initial script, decided she didn't want to do a second draft. And
is it okay to say her name?
Yes, it's Kylie Mustafa.
Okay.
So she's a great writer, but she didn't want to do the second draft. She decided it wasn't the kind of film she wanted to write, but it was right up my alley, and so she asked me to take on the second draft, which I did, and it just turned out to be one of those projects that the script was so good that everybody that got involved in it just wanted to see it done. So we're working really hard at getting that put together right now.
Is there a title you can?
Yeah, it's called Hello, I Love You.
Okay.
And basically the basic story is an independent woman who doesn't really want to get married, but her mother is diagnosed with lung cancer, and she wants to give her the wedding that she thought that her mother wanted. So she hires a guy to marry her legally, and figuring it would be a 6-month marriage, and then at that point they would get divorced. I won't give away the rest of it, but it's not. It doesn't go the way you would expect it to go. Like a normal romantic comedy would. She would get cured, and then everybody would be like stuck, But we don't do that. We do something a little bit more, a little darker.
Since we're talking about your films, we'll continue on that track for a moment. Tell us about Cracking the Code. Where did you come up with the ideas for that? Give us a little background on Cracking the Code.
2005, I decided to follow my passion, and I enrolled at the Art Institute of Portland to kind of pursue digital media and filmmaking. One of the classes I took was a screenwriting class. I'd been doing playwriting up until that point, not very successfully. As it turns out, I was always a screenwriter, and so my plays read more like screenplays than theater pieces. And so.
Is that from watching a lot of movies in your past?
I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm a lover of dialogue, so it's kind of a strange thing because they say that it's all about the words in theater and it's all about the image in film. But I mean, there's a lot of successful filmmakers who do very wordy pieces, and I kind of wanted to be in that camp because I do love language and I do love dialogue. So, but I started working on a project in that screenwriting class, and it was based on experiences as a bartender when I was attending a bar. And a friend of mine had approached me and told me that his best friend was getting divorced, and that the wife had called him and told him that she was in love with him. And what should he do about it? And I was like, you run the other way, man. You don't get involved in that. There's a code, brother. The unspoken, unwritten male code that you don't fool around with other people's, ladies. And he did though, and they got married and had a child. And I mean, they may be together today. I don't know, because none of us spoke to him ever again. It's kind of the consequence. But that made me think, I wonder if there is a way for somebody to actually succeed in that without losing your friends, and also can that character be likable? So it was almost like an exercise for me as a writer to write a likable character who's doing despicable things. And so I finished it in school, but we didn't make it until 2008. But while I was in school, I was smart, and I went around to the people that were in school with me who were learning, camera work and other crew positions, and asked them if they'd be interested in making the feature with me when it came time. So I just basically called in my favors.
Good.
And brought them on. And at the time, my wife then was supportive of the idea, but when I asked her what kind of a budget we could have, she said zero.
There you go, yeah.
And I said, okay, we'll make a zero budget feature film. All right, we'll do it in 2 weeks, and we'll just do it, And that's what we did. I mean, out of pocket, eventually, there was a grand total of about $4,300.
Okay.
We just paid for as we went, and 32 of that was food. You got to take care of the actors, so.
It's best to feed them.
Absolutely. Really proud of the piece. I think it doesn't look like a $4,000 movie. It looks like, like a $17,000. No, I'm kidding. It looks way better than it should. But I think that really comes from, thank you. It comes from the dedication and the hard work that everybody put into it. None of us had ever made a feature, so we were learning as we went. And it did pretty well in Europe as far as film festivals go. We were nominated Best Feature at the Cairo and Ireland International Film Festivals.
Good job.
And we were honorable mention at a British Film Festival. And in America, we were completely ignored, except for the Portland-based Underground Film Festival, which showed it, and that was really fun. All 12 of us liked it.
It's going to be on TV here in a few weeks, and
Uh-oh.
that's coming out in a little while. But we're going to show that on TV, right?
Yeah, absolutely, if you want
good.
to, sure.
The next one I wanted to talk to you about is The Adventures of Dex Dixon, the Paranormal Dick.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with that? Is it because of comic book characters, or are you love the old-time film noir?
Honestly, in St. Helens, I don't know if you're familiar with St. Helens at all.
A little bit, not too much.
There's an old theater there, this beautiful theater, the Columbia Theater.
I've actually do know where that is.
Yeah, and a lot of people have shot there for films and that sort of thing. It's renovated, it's gorgeous. I was in watching some movies there, and I started thinking about the old serials, back in the day when they would show them before movies, because that, you're in an environment like that, and it's like nostalgic almost. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if they still did those kind of little serials before movies? And so as I was leaving, the owner was there, and I asked him, if I ever made a serial, would you show it like on Saturday mornings before your show? And he said, of course. And so I really wanted to do that, but I didn't do anything about it. I just kind of set it in the back of my head. Then I made a short film for the 48-Hour Film Festival. We got silent film. And it just fueled again that whole love of the old nostalgic film style. And there's something beautiful about directing silent film, because you can speak to the actors at the moment. And so all those reactions that they give are so genuine and not canned. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do like a zombie movie in a black and white Buster Keaton style, but like the violence would be super gory. Like we were just kind of trying to kick around some ideas for that. And then it dawned on me that it'd be really fun to create a noir style world where there was these werewolves and vampires, but they weren't transformative. They just existed.
Okay.
And people just accepted that they existed. And what if there was a detective sort of at the beginning of the end of his career who had almost wiped out all the vampires and left himself with no job? And wouldn't that be a fun character? And also, I love wordplay, and Paranormal Dick made me giggle. And so I thought, well, let's do super innuendo, really fun, kind of bantery dialogue that calls attention to itself, but is intelligent. It's not goofy. And I think we got really lucky. We succeeded with that. We shot a 10-minute teaser that we've shopped around quite a bit. It's always gotten really positive response. And we even got a couple of bites as far as almost getting money to produce a film of it. So right now it is slated to be made into a film. We're just waiting for this particular slate company to actually fulfill the obligation. It's not that they're not trying, it's just that the money that they're trying to get has been held up. So hopefully we'll get that.
You wrote, directed, and produced Cracking the Code and Dex Dixon, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to this next subject. You actually have a screenwriting class.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you put that up, Ellery? He'll put it up there.
Oh yeah.
So if somebody wants to know about screenwriting or learn the art of screenwriting, the craft of screenwriting, can they contact you about that?
Absolutely, please do. And and I would also encourage people to check the resources that are also available. I mean, there's several really decent screenwriters in town.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of them are actually teaching right now. I think I may be the only one teaching outside of the institutions right now.
Okay.
But I would say that there's several great writers, and I say that because I think it's important that we learn craft from several locations and places, not just from one person, but also reading. And
so is the basis of your technique Blake Snyder's Skinning the Cat?
It is.
Save the Cat.
Saving the Cat. Skinning the Cat's a different style.
What about John Truby or Robert McKee?
Yeah, McKee. Well, you're looking at the giants, right? And don't forget Sid Field, of course.
Sid Field, yes.
Who was the grandfather of the whole thing.
He was ahead of all of them.
And the thing about it is that a lot of people will fight you, especially new writers will fight structure, and they'll say, oh, it's limiting and that sort of thing. I find structure to be the most liberating thing you have, because you can let that part of it go. It's like being an actor and learning your lines and then forgetting them. Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of thing. Structure exists. I mean, we can argue about it, but you can give me any movie and I'll break it down for you. You know, because I've just become a student of that. It doesn't mean that we're not creative. It doesn't mean that we're not coming up with new ideas, because of course we should always push the envelope. But I do, when I teach my class, it is from that standpoint. And for me, story is key. Always story. And and also asking this one question every time you go to write a screenplay, which is, why this story? Why now? These are the questions you have to ask yourself. Whenever someone says, I'm writing a new zombie movie, my first question is, why?
Exactly.
Tell me what's different about your zombie movie. What's
than the other ones.
Right. And then you'll get a Shaun of the Dead, or you'll get.
And Steven Spielberg is handed a new script. One of the first things he asks you is, "Who's the villain?"
Exactly.
Who's the villain in this?
Yeah, that's
because
what
he wants to know who the villain is. If the villain's a weak villain, he doesn't want to make it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for my class, my standpoint is I'm very supportive. I'm also not precious about the work, in the sense that I actually try to write a new screenplay every time I work with a new group of students, because this class is called 8 Weeks to a First Draft.
Okay.
And we go through the 15 classic beats of Snyder, but I've also put my own spin on them as well. And I think of those beats as being signposts to completion.
Right.
So, because it used to be in the Sid Field formula, it was Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, 30 pages, 60 pages, 30 pages.
Right.
Everyone can write the first 30 pages all day long. It's getting from 30 to 90 that was killing people.
It's really hard.
So what this really does is it breaks down those little places where you can go. And it doesn't have to be page by page by page.
Right.
It's just that it gives you a direction to go. And I have a kind of maybe not vulgar, but more of a kind of a gross term I use. I use the puke and rally method. So you vomit it onto the page, get it out, and then clean it up later.
Right, I agree with you. On that.
So because you can't get anywhere without that first moment, and then you can start structuring. And the other thing that I try to support people in is teaching them the importance of critique, how important it is to be critiqued, how important it is to critique people, and that critique is not a negative word.
No.
So
here's the thing: is I've had a lot of people, writers in Portland, critique my writing, Mike Prosser and some others. And you can't take it personally.
Absolutely not.
If you do, it's bad. What you have to do is realize it's about the story, and they're trying to improve your story.
Right.
And if you take what they tell you, and
don't be precious, and don't be offended. Yeah. There's only one answer to a critique. You know what it is? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you.
You can argue all you want, but one of the things when I'm writing too, I always wonder. Sometimes like there's a little thing you've written, you're like, that's probably not going to play.
Right.
But then you convince yourself, you know what? Maybe it's just me. So I'll leave it alone. And if nobody else mentions it, then I'm okay. But if one other person mentions it's got to go.
Or if two people make the same comment.
Yeah, then you have to make that.
You have to really listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, because they're not wrong.
No, they're not.
So that's kind of the thing with me, and also making sure that people understand that the first draft is just that. It's a first draft, and that you have all the time in the world to fix it. And I do several passes when I do a screenplay. My teacher called me a third drafter. Because I don't write anything.
Breaking Code that I wrote actually took 50 drafts.
Yeah.
Before I felt it was good.
Well, and you were talking about critiquing and finding people that are important, that you trust.
Right.
I always tell my students this too. Don't go to friends, because friends are going to tell you what you want to hear. Don't go to actors, because they just want to act.
Yes.
And you know, so you got to go to people who are going to tell you the truth. Greg Skelton, we were talking about him
good.
earlier. He said to me, this is so funny because he had read Dex Dixon and fell in love with it, and so we became kind of friends. You know, anybody who loves my stuff, I like them. That's kind of my rule. He had read the script and he really liked it. Well, so he became a sounding board for me a little bit, you know. But I didn't really know he was a great sounding board until I sent him the script for an adaptation of a novel that I was doing called The Last Starship from Earth. And I sent him the script, and I'd been working on it since like 2003, trying to get this thing to work. I've done 14 drafts on this thing. I was trying to stay so close to the novel that I was actually not seeing the story as a screenplay, and so I was killing it. I gave it to Greg, and he called me after reading it. He said, "Steve, I'm glad I read your other stuff first. If I'd read this first, I would never have read another one of your screenplays."
There you go.
And now, you know, a lot of people would get upset about something like that. You know, it's personal. Writing is personal. Any kind of creation is personal. To me, I laughed and I said, that is a person I'm always going to trust.
You bet.
He's going to tell me the truth, and I'm going to learn from it.
We're going to move on.
Okay.
You've done a lot of live shows.
Recently.
Recently. Yeah, well, but you had a couple of them were very popular. Varsity Werewolves.
Mm-hmm. That's a hard one to say.
You say it.
I will. It's Varsity Cheerleader Werewolves from Outer Space.
Cheerleader Werewolves from Outer Space.
And if that title's not long enough, when we do it live, it's Varsity Cheerleader Werewolves live from Outer Space.
Okay, and then the other one is Flash Aha.
Flash Aha, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Flash Aha.
All right,
right, because you just started that, and you also had some news about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
So after basically what we did was we were going to do Varsity Cheerleaders as a readers theater in a bar. The Jack London, they will do a lot of fun artsy things. And I was thinking to myself, you know, we do a lot of screenplay reading, and we do what I call scriptorama, where we enhance it with slides and sound effects and that sort of thing, just so it's a more immersive experience for the people listening to the screenplay. And I thought, well, we should do that at the Jack London. But then I started second-guessing myself and thinking it would be boring. So we trimmed the script down to an hour, just chopped it up and made it an hour long. And then I was like, yeah, but sitting in chairs, you know, maybe we should move around a little bit. Oh, that's great, but maybe we should put costumes on so there's a differentiation between us and you know, maybe we should have some music so it's more interesting. Maybe we should have dances in it. Next thing I know, we had...
Sounds like a musical.
Yeah, instead of them turning into werewolves, they had bustiers and fishnet stockings, and it was like this cabaret piece.
Okay.
200 people showed up to that thing. I mean, maybe it wasn't that many. It felt like that many. Blew us away. It was a one-time only thing. The bar came to us afterwards and said, "You got to do it again." We did it 2 more times, did pretty well, and then we did an actual theatrical run of it. And we did that all last year, and then launched us into doing Dex Dixon as a live show. So we added some more songs to it and made it into a film noir horror comedy musical, and it was very well received. I think we did more ticket sales with Varsity, but a lot more artistically response from Dex Dixon. But of course, you know, people wanted more, and I was like, no, I don't want to do theater. I really don't want to do theater. I want to go back to doing film. And my friend goes, yeah, but what if you did Flash Gordon? And I was like, you know, of course. What a perfect film to parody. But being me, I wasn't satisfied with just that. I wanted to add 12 songs performed by Queen as musical numbers in the show that the characters would sing. And crazily enough, I probably found 20 songs that would have fit the show, but we pared it down to 12.
Okay.
And we got the School of Rock involved. So I had a 7-piece rock band from the School of Rock, kids 13 to 18 years old.
Oh, really? Okay.
Melting our faces every night. And great local actors all came on board to do Flash as a musical. Okay. And we sold out all but 2 performances.
It's so well received.
That we're bringing it back. Yeah, we actually just got booked at the Star Theater on April 25th. We're doing one show, one night only, and the School of Rock kids are back. And we're just going to do that show as kind of a kickoff to the next piece that we're doing.
Okay. Your Electric Dreams. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
This kind of you haven't spoke about it yet in public, right?
No, not at all. Actually, Electric Dreams is one of these movies. It's a little what they call a guilty pleasure from the '80s for me. It was a very small film that I think was way ahead of its time, dealing with a boy, a girl, and a personal computer. It's a love triangle. and the computer comes to life. My friend came up with a tagline for it. He said, before her had Samantha, before Apple had Siri, there was Edgar.
Okay. Is Edgar going to be the name?
Edgar's the name of the computer in the film, and it's about a boy who is shy and a computer that falls for a cellist, and he starts playing music to her and wooing her. It's a little bit of Cyrano. It's a Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay.
But we're going to do it live, and it's got music from huge bands from the 80s, but it's like the best B-sides you'd ever find. A couple songs by Culture Club. Who else? Philip Oakley, ELO. I mean, it's a huge
Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah, it's a huge fun soundtrack of songs you've never heard, but we're doing them live as musical numbers performed by our cast.
Okay.
And the other thing too is that most of the music was produced by Gregor Moroder from Daft Punk, who this last year was Artist of the Year and whatnot. So it's a cool throwback to the 80s, but it's also very kind of contemporary in the sense that these are huge giants in the music world that contributed to this film. So it's a little bit of a departure for us.
So you direct most of these stage musical. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you work with actors?
Well, since I started in theater and was an actor, I think that always helps. It gives you a little bit more of a shorthand. You understand the process more than someone who hasn't had that experience. Okay. I have always said that everybody, I think, in the industry should do a little bit of all of it, so you understand what everybody's department is.
Exactly.
And then you can speak to them in a way that makes sense. So I approach actors as individuals. I teach an acting class as well, and one of the things that we do in that class is, and I think one of the mistakes that most classes make is they try and teach you the way that they would perform.
Exactly.
I'm not interested in learning how they would perform, and I'm not interested in you learning how I perform. I'm interested in developing you.
That's I like to hear
Yeah,
that.
and so we do a character study that's breaking that down.
Okay.
But so when I approach actors and when I talk to actors, I get to know them as people, and I don't direct any one actor or any two actors the same way.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that they're comfortable. As you know, 90% of any success is the casting.
It is.
And if you're not open to allowing the performers to bring what they do to the project and influence it, then you're doing something wrong.
Right.
The first play I ever directed, I said, you will lift your glass on that line, you will turn your head to the left on that line. And I was watching it from the booth thinking, why does this show suck? And I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized I never let those actors do their job.
Right.
So the next show I directed, I just walked in and said, go. Because honestly, if you bring a new actor in and replace someone, the whole show should change.
It should.
We should be reacting to each other. There's no action. There's, everything is a reaction to something that happened before.
Right.
You walk on stage, the first line out of your mouth is not the first line, presumably, that character has ever said. There should be a life behind it.
Yes.
And so I think that's what I'm looking for, is to bring actors in who have that life and bring it to the film, to the show, whatever happens. No matter how silly the dialogue, no matter any of that stuff, they have to be real.
When you're on a film set, how do you work with the cinematographer?
First of all, you hire the right person. You have to have great respect for that person before you start that.
Yeah.
It is.
But the cinematographer is important, extremely.
It's a marriage, and if you don't do that, you will eat up all of your time trying to get them to make the vision of the film that you can only make the film you shot, right? I mean, that's the rules. You go into the editing room.
That's all you have.
You can't change it. That's what you have. So for me, it's best to make sure and plan. Now, of course, Galvin Collins will be listening to this and thinking, that's not how it was when we made Cracking the Code. And he's absolutely right. Sorry, Galvin, I didn't know any better. But now I understand that process. And so you find the right person, you communicate about it beforehand, make sure you're on the same page, and then it's just a little bit of checking in. Trust them to do their job and stay out of the way. And if you just check in periodically, make sure your shots are looking like what you spoke about, you should be in great shape.
What is your favorite part of filmmaking?
The collaboration. Honestly, it is that, and it didn't used to be that way. I mean, for me, it was I'm going to be the first to admit it. When I was young, I was really into me. I didn't think anybody else had any talent or knew anything, and I finally one day saw some amazing performances. And it just blew my mind, that, and I started seeing, well, the difference is of being open to collaboration. So, like I say, let people do their jobs that you hire them to do, or that you've brought on to do, and let you need to be building each other up, lifting each other
Absolutely.
up.
It's got to be a great catalog.
Yeah. So that's what I
Collaboration.
look for. Exactly.
It's about the story.
Yeah, story.
Story first. If everybody puts the story first, it ends up being pretty good.
It's true.
Whenever you have, it's about me as an actor, the director, the cinematographer, things get out of whack.
And it shows.
Quick.
It shows.
Oh, it does show.
How many actors wait to talk instead of listening to what they're being told.
Absolutely. Although sometimes when they're in an argument and they talk over each other, if they don't talk over each
engaged.
other, if they're still engaged.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the thing, is that you have to be connected, and that's the other thing too, is I don't necessarily believe that each actor has to have the same backstory in mind either. As long as you've made a choice, as long as you're living and responding in a truthful and honest way to that choice, and in the moment of that choice, then I think it all works out.
Right. What is your favorite film? You got a lot of them, all
David.
Right?
That's such a horrible question to ask.
I gotta nail you with one.
I know.
I gotta hit you with one, Steve.
Because what does that mean? A film that I probably go back to more and more is Big Lebowski.
Okay.
And only because, one day I realized that he literally had the rug pulled out from under him, and I thought that was just one day.
You did a live performance of that, though, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I was involved. I got to play Walter.
Right.
It was really fun.
And they had the film running behind you at the same time.
We talked the guy out into turning off the sound so that we as actors could act.
But I saw the timing of that was pretty right on. I was pretty impressed with that.
Oh, thank you.
I was extremely impressed.
We worked really hard.
Any advice for someone trying to get getting a film made?
Make it. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because that's wrong. I think even Kelly was saying this the other day. The Angry Filmmaker was saying, you just got to go out and make your movie.
You do.
So don't let people stop you. Look for people that are going to lift you up, people that can bring something to the table, and embrace them and treat them right.
Yeah.
And return the favor.
All right. Where does Steve hope to see himself in 5 years?
I'd like to see Brian May shaking my hand and saying, "Please do Flash as a Broadway show."
Okay. Is that right?
That, and I'd also like to be just making films that speak to me. That working with people that like to make great films and just be doing this. I don't care if I'm ever rich or famous. That doesn't matter to me as long as we're making,
as long as you're
making great projects
and having fun.
Absolutely.
Where can readers find out more about you? It's through your website? Can they contact you through your email?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to contact me, Steve Coker at screenworksinc.net. And the ink is INK. That's what everybody gets hung up on.
There it is.
There it is. You can also reach us through our websites. We have two. We have Stageworks Inc., which is more for screenwriting and for production design and things of that nature, or our theater site, which is stageworksinc.com. And we're so clever, we didn't want to come up with a whole new idea, so we did that. And that will tell you all about the shows that we have done and shows that are coming up and where to get tickets.
Tickets and stuff like that. Steve, I want to take this time right now to thank Steve for being on the show. It was a great time, great interview. I also at this time want to thank my director, who is Ellery Nelson. He does a great job. And I also want to thank my wife, who Sunday we'd been married 29 years.
Congratulations.
Awesome, huh? She's also my producer, and as of tonight, she's also my manager. And I want to thank you for tuning in and watching Portland Film Beat. Until next time, shoot for the silver screen.